everyone, Chris here, and welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to talk about the books I read between December 21st and December 27th. First up is The Man Who Died Twice by Richard Osman, and I gave this book 4.25 stars. This is the second book in the Thursday Murder Club, and in this book we're following a group of 4 septuagenarians, Elizabeth, Joyce, Ron, and Ibrahim, as they kind of solve crimes. In this book, Elizabeth is contacted by a man from her past who is in over his head due to stolen diamonds and threats on his life. As the bodies start to drop, the group has to figure out what is going on before one of them ends up dead. And if they find the stolen diamonds in the meantime, well, bonus. So I was nervous going into this book because my mom also reads the series and she read this one before I did and didn't enjoy it as much as the first book. And I think I enjoyed this one more. Once I picked it up, I didn't want to put it down. I kind of flew through it. And so I think I enjoyed this one more than the first one. I love the relationship that Elizabeth, Ron, Ibrahim, and Joyce have. It is interesting to see how they play off of each other because each of them is very different and they have very distinct personalities, and it is interesting to see how their personalities mesh and how they've kind of formed this crew that is investigating these crimes that they come up with. I was very curious where they were going to go with this based on the way book 1 ended, but I was pleasantly surprised. And I really enjoyed this book. I love this group of characters, and they are definitely characters, let me tell you. And I can't wait to see what kind of mischief and mayhem they get up to in book 3. This is definitely a series I will be continuing, and I have a fun time with it. Next up, I read The Accidental Apprentice by Amanda Foody, and I gave this book 4.5 stars. This book fulfilled the prompt Another Booktubers TBR for Phase 10 Chooses My TBR, an animal companion for Mary Bookmas. So in this book, we're following Barkley, and he has no desire to go on an adventure, but that's exactly what happens to him after an ill-advised trip into the forest where he accidentally bonds with a beast. Now, he lives in a town that has completely outlawed magic and is terrified of it, and unfortunately, when you bond with a beast, you gain magic and become a lore keeper. Because of this, he knows he will not be safe in his town for long and ends up setting out back into the forest because he needs to find somebody that can break this bond between him and the beast so he can return to his town without magic. Because his town is so fearful of magic, he knows that the only place he's going to find that is by going to a town that has magic people, so he has to go through the woods. And so he sets out on this quest with this beast that he does not want to find somebody who can help him break this bond so that he no longer has to be a lore keeper. Once he gets to this town, though, he begins to waver on whether having a beast is the worst thing imaginable and has some very tough decisions that he'll have to make. I absolutely love this book. I love getting to see Barkley's journey and how he struggles with having bonded with this beast when really all he wants is just a normal life in his town with no magic and to just kind of be a normal kid. He just really wants to fit in, and having this beast makes him stick out like a sore thumb. So it is interesting to see him struggle with that and to struggle once he gets to the new town and starts to learn more about this thing that has kind of been hidden from him because of the way his town is set up. I enjoyed the characters he got to meet once he got to the town, and there were definitely twists and turns I didn't see coming, and I love that the book managed to fool me. It got me, and I love when books can do that. They can hide something right in plain sight and I just don't see it. So I really enjoyed that aspect to the book. I enjoy Barkley as a character, and like I said, I enjoyed his journey, and I definitely want to see what happens with Barkley next. So this will be a series that I will absolutely continue because I had a blast reading this book, and I'm hoping that I continue to have a blast reading this series. Next up, I read The Quilling Games by DJ McHale, and I gave this book 4.25 stars. This book fulfilled the prompt script for Phase 10 Chooses My TBR and game/competition for Mary Bookmas. This is the 7th book in the Pendragon series, and in this series we're following Bobby Pendragon, whose Uncle Press shows up one day and asks for his help. Bobby quickly agrees and ends up getting whisked off to another land. And he soon finds out that there's a lot more to the world than he thought there were. There are actually more worlds than he thought there were, and he has to help protect them because there's an evil person running around named Saint Dane who wants to destroy all of the worlds, including Bobby's own, and the only way to protect his own world is to protect all the worlds. And I have been doing a reread of the series, and this is, like I said, the 7th book, so I can't say too much about what's going on with Bobby in this book, but I will say this book is so far the one I had the least memories of reading. I'm not sure I've read any farther into the series because at this point, anything I do remember about the series has been revealed, or has happened, so I don't know if I read book 8, but I'm definitely looking forward to reading it at some point. The world Bobby found himself on in this book was quite interesting, and I always enjoy getting to see Bobby try to navigate his way through the new worlds he finds himself in. I'm still really loving the dynamic of seeing what's going on with Bobby, but also seeing what's going on with his friends back home as he sends his journals back to them. And I am very curious where things go in book 8 based on the way things ended in book 7. So really loving this series and looking forward to continuing it, hopefully sooner rather than later. Next up, I read Starfire by Jennifer Lynn Alvarez, and I gave this book 4.5 stars. This book fulfilled the prompt start a series for Phase 10 chooses my TBR. Once, every 100 years, a black foal is born, and they are fated to be the most powerful Pegasi in all of Anak. The only problem is nobody can guarantee whether they will be a good Pegasi or a bad one. Our main character in this is Star, who is one such Pegasi. He is a black foal, and everybody is worried about his fate, despite the fact that he was born with wings that aren't strong enough for him to fly. The 5 herds of Anak do not want him coming into his powers, which would happen on his first birthday, so have agreed that he must die before then to make sure that there is no chance that he could become an evil Pegasi. His friends, however, don't see things the same way, so together with Star, they must find a way to help him escape his fate and survive to see his first birthday. Obviously hoping that they're right and his powers will be good. So I really enjoyed the start to the series. I have read Riders of the Realm, which is another series written by Jennifer Lynn Alvarez, and it takes place after the series. So I probably should have read this one first. So if you're interested in the series, I would definitely suggest you read this one first, because there are characters you meet in Riders of the Realm that are mentioned in this book. So in some ways, I already have spoiled myself, because obviously if I'm reading about characters in Riders of the Realm that are mentioned in this book, I don't have to worry about them dying in this book, because, well, they can't have died in this book or in the series, because then they wouldn't be in the Riders of the Realm series. So definitely, absolutely, if you don't want to be spoiled, read this series first. But I love that series, and this one is no exception. I really like the way Jennifer Lynn Alvarez writes the Pegasi, and I grew very attached to Star very quickly and became very concerned about his fate. I loved getting to see the bonds these herds have formed. Whether they were against Star or not, it was just interesting to see how the politics played out and how the herds were just trying to make the best decision they could for the safety of them and the rest of their herd. I am very curious what happens in book 2 based on the events of book 1, and because of what I know due to Riders of the Realm, I'm very curious to see how the events of this series lead to the events of that one. So definitely going to continue on with this series at some point and highly recommend it. And lastly, I read Defy the Night by Bridget Kemmer, and this is a 5-star prediction. In this book, there is a terrible sickness going through the kingdom of Kandala, and we have 2 points of view. One is Tessa, who lives with the common folk, and the common folk are really starting to reach the end of their rope as there isn't enough medicine to go around to protect everybody from the sickness. Tessa, understanding this, decides to do something, and with the help of a friend, have been stealing moonflowers, which are the main ingredient in the medicine, and have been making the medicine on their own and distributing it to people who cannot afford to buy the medicine for themselves. The other POV is Prince Korik, and he and his brother were forced to power after their parents were assassinated. He is the king's justice, which means he deals out punishment at the behest of his brother, King Harrison, and they are pretty ruthless due to the fact that their parents were assassinated and they really don't know who they can trust and have basically decided they can trust only each other. As a rebellion starts to build, Tessa and Korik will have to both deal with how that affects their lives as this uprising grows in strength, and it definitely changes things for both of them. As they are on different sides of this issue, with Tessa living with the common folk and seeing what it's like up close and personal, and Prince Korik living in the castle and having to try to do the best by all of his people and knowing more about the political side of the situation than Tessa does. So normally this video would go out before my 5-star prediction wrap up, but I'm behind, which you know if you've been following my channel. So I will link my 5-star prediction 3 wrap up in the description below if you'd like to know my thoughts on this book, because I go way into depth with it there and I don't really want to repeat myself. So check that video out if you'd like to check out my thoughts on that book. So these are some of the books I read between December 21st and December 27th. All of my social media, including my Discord, is linked in the description below if you'd like to come chat with me. If you've made it this far in the video, leave me animal emojis, like this video, and subscribe to my channel, and I'll talk to you next time. Bye!